purchased creates an obligation for us to get it done.
Ready? Good evening. Welcome. Let's all stand for the pledge and a moment of silence, please. Melinda?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kramer,
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Present.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Present.
Chairman Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Ross,
Here.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Here.
Commissioner Lautner. Present. All present.
Thank you. We do have some minutes to approve if we're ready.
A motion?
Yes, Commissioner Allgaier?
I would make a motion that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Thursday, May 4th, 2023, regular session Tuesday, June 20, 2023, and special session Tuesday, July 11, 2023.
Support.
All those in support of the motion, say aye. Motion approved, 7-0. We now have an agenda to approve. Anybody have any late additions or deletions? Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Support.
All those in support, say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. This time, it's our first public comment session of the evening. The first comments are limited to 3 minutes. We thank you for coming. We would ask that you address the Board of Commissioners as a whole, and it is our practice not to respond to questions, but we would respond to them at a later date if asked. So anybody want to be recognized? Yes.
Hi, good evening. Barb Conley from Northport. And I'm here with more information regarding the mental health crisis that we're in right now. And, you know, we face a lot of challenges there, right? No providers currently, and very few, and then lack of housing to bring new providers in. Just to let you know, and I've given you some websites, the Northwest Michigan Community Health Innovation Region has been working to address these issues. But I'm here to ask specifically if you consider just 2 things. One is there's a crisis center that's been started to be funded by some Munson and $5 million by Grand Traverse County that will be in Traverse City, but is intended to really serve the region. And I would ask that since Leelanau County is about 20% of the population of Grand Traverse County, that they consider $1 million funding investment of that to either recruit new providers or funding itself. And the second thing, Leelanau County Commissioners sit on the board for Northern Lakes, and I would ask that they support getting a grant writer to apply for grants for a certified community behavioral health clinic in our area, which has been encouraged by the people who create these things. And it's good funding, and that may help us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Conley.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Yes, please. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Paige Sykes, and I live in the Blind Curves and 22. I'm here to ask for your support for legislative initiatives to help reduce the speed and increase the safety of our community. Michigan State Police Traffic Crash Unit provided data from 2018 through present on the strip of road, and of note there was 1 fatality in 2018. The report from March of 22 through July of 23 revealed 22 crashes. There are 6 streets and 44 access points along this strip of highway, with only 17 of those on the water. Therefore, with the exception of the Whaleback Inn, all are residential and all must cross M22 at 55 miles per hour to get to their waterfronts, putting drivers and pedestrians at risk. There's a primary source of legislation that could help resolve our problem. It's House Bill 4012. This bill was reported with recommendation, without argument, and referred for a second reading. Legislative analysis states the bill would amend Michigan Vehicle Code to change procedures for certain speed limits on Michigan highways. Although legislative analysis states that section 628 would be amended, giving MDOT and county and local authorities ability to modify general speed limits to account for local circumstances and set lower than the 85th percentile speed. The body of the bill states the decision will rest with the state transportation department and police for trunk line highways, which M22 is. There are other two sections of the vehicle code, section 627 and 628, which could help support. Section 627 of the code establishes the basic speed laws, and that says that it requires drivers to keep a speed that allows their vehicles to stop safely under current road conditions, which the blind sharp curves do not allow. I have community recommendations, designate pedestrian bike lanes in the shoulder of the road or make a new pedestrian bike lane along M22. Flashing yellow lights on the signs with a 35-mile-per-hour curves signs are currently. Rumble strips on M204. Road Commission to continue their trimming areas in the easeways and ensure all the signage is visible, undercut the limbs that obstruct vision, and ensure shrubbery is kept low in the, particularly around the curves. A pedestrian crossing mechanism, example of Grandview Parkway and Travelers. And local residents really risk accidents each time they enter and exit their driveways, although MERS help reduce speed and a designated blind driveway signs would greatly increase the safety for oncoming drivers and residents. In closing, I'm asking for a resolution to help support House Bill 4012 with the clarification of two key points and a possible amendment. This particular strip of highway must have a safety and engineering study to validate the hazardous situations for public safety that are not reflected in a speed study because of the blind curves. M22 is a trunk line, therefore the current speed modifications must be done by state police and the transportation department. So what I'd like, clarification of that and the amendment, how Bill 4012 is currently written, to allow local communities to partner with MDOT to set the speed limits on portions of this trunk line that is within their jurisdiction and to account for all the local circumstances and the road conditions such as the sharp line curves.
Thank you. That's your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Anybody else?
In the back, Wes.
Yes,
Wes, Ty.
pardon?
I said in the back, Wes.
Yes, please come forward. I need a lot of help up here. Yes, that's good.
My first visit to your board. Good evening. I'm Carol Shepard, and I'm from Grand Traverse County. And first of all, thank you very much for your service to the constituents and all the residents in Leelanau County, and for this opportunity to share our thoughts and concerns. And this is in regard specifically to the potential recall effort that may happen for five House representatives down in Lansing. And my comments will be very short. It seems it's a sad day when a Lansing representative who's elected to represent the needs of the people within their district might be forced into a situation of peril and actually risk losing their seat if they vote to keep a promise that was made to those who elected them. Anything that could be done by this Leelanau Commission and by those of us who support Representative Copia, we need to take action to ensure that Representative Copia remains seated. She's been unwavering in her commitment. Representative Copia voted in accordance with the promise she made to those who elected her. Representative Copia deserves our support, the kind of unwavering support she gives to her constituents. So thank you very much. You would know better what would be an appropriate action step, but please try to think of something. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Something new, so I don't know.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township, and speaking on the election machines are not trustworthy, and got lots of reasons why. If we ever want another anonymous election in any of the counties in the United States, we need to go to paper ballots, one day, one ballot, one vote, one person, county. Okay, these are some charts that are anybody can read them. The fingerprints of fraud. Go to fingerprintsoffraud.com. This is volume 1. It's 9 of the 27 states that currently have cast vote records. Looking at the cast vote records, which come right out of the machine. So you're looking right at the data from the machine. And this is it's got a coin toss on this side, and this is where no fraud is detected in this election. So yours explains the first 2 scenarios a little bit better. This shows up in color. So in the coin toss, he did it 4,000 times, ended up with 49 point something % of heads. That's what you would expect with randomness. So the same thing happens in an election. That's the second one. And they tried it over and over. I forget, it was like 100,000 attempts at 500,000 votes, and they established these red parameters that the votes should stay within if they're legitimate, if there's no evidence of fraud. And so this is a county, some county in the United States has got about 312,000 people casting ballots, and you can see there's no evidence of fraud. It's right within the parameters that it should be. And you can find this and more information at fingerprintsofraud.com. This is evidence of fraud, and this is the result of it. So the third one shows Mesa County. It's called the Mesa pattern. That's where Tina Peters was brave enough to look to secure the ballots, so they wouldn't erase stuff, and that's what actually happened. So you see a high Biden, in this case Biden-Trump 2020, high Biden count at the bottom, which was not well, and then it rises like this. It all should be within that cone. This shows the result of it, and I'm running out of time here, but the first one is the first 25%, the 25,000 votes, where Trump just barely won, but this is, the middle one is really what it should be. Great.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Wiesner.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry about that.
And it looks like you have help carrying those signs away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You offering these? These two?
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Drew Warner, and I'm here to support Page Sykes' efforts in the speed reduction studies and those efforts to try to lower the speed around the blind corners on M22 headed into Leland. So I bought the hotel 5 years ago, July of 2018, and in that time, so we're open from April, beginning of April until about mid-November in a typical season. And we see about 4,000 to 4,500 guests per year, depending on the year. So quite a few people. We've got a decent amount of road frontage, and then we have 200 feet of lakefront across the street. So folks our guests are pretty consistently walking down some steps from our front lawn and then down to the road, and then walking across the road to get to the docks, and we go out on boats and enjoy the waterfront. So it's it's just one of those things that it is, the traffic is so fast that a lot of our guests do comment. We can't help where we're at. Obviously, it's a beautiful view, so we're super happy for our location, but it is a bit scary, and I do think it should be taken seriously. I think Paige has done a great job putting information together and trying to get in touch with the powers that be in that regard. So I just wanted to express support for that. I'm just concerned that over time there's going to be more injuries or fatalities. So, and I think 35 miles per hour would be much more in line with, the amount of folks, unfortunately, that are on their phones when they're driving these days. Even with the new law that's been passed, it seems to, I notice it all the time. And then if you get a little kid or just even an adult that's not paying attention, that's walking across. So I would say even out of those 17 residences, those people may go once or twice in a day across the street, but we've got people all day long doing that. So I just wanted to express my support for that. Also, would help a lot with turning north out of our driveway, because turning north is a blind corner. So sometimes I recommend people turn south first and then go turn around at the next street so that they have more visibility. And we are working on installing a mirror, but we just haven't been able to get to it yet. But I did just order one of those mirrors online that you can see the oncoming traffic with. So that's kind of our next step. But anyway, I just wanted to express support for those efforts, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Barb Samaras. I live in Solon Township. I came tonight because I wanted to support Betsy Covia. I don't know how much of a real threat this recall is that we've read about, but to me, I kind of want to think of it as a badge of honor that she's been doing so much that maybe she feels like a threat in some ways. Keep doing what you're doing, Betsy.
Thank you. Any other public comment this evening? Yes, Mr. Pikowski.
Good evening, after a late afternoon. A very revealing meeting this afternoon. We're here to talk about the inverted yield curve in the next recession. Now, that recession will probably begin early next year, and it will probably be very severe. The yield curve inversion is occurring in the bond markets as predicted in recession since the 1960s. And every time it's inverted, the recession has always come about. So a few more months and we'll know how severe it will become. We again here to request that this Board of Commissioners immediately prepare a report on the wasted taxpayers' money and the harm and damage done to the people in this building, and those ongoing things regarding the May 11, 2021 bad decision, which was a FERC loading decision. I was reminded as I watched the TV program, we see here, I think this commission is failing to accept the truth of the bad action of the last commission and the continuing decisions. And Horace Cooper made an interesting statement, and it appears to me that we can't be that stupid by accident. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you for coming. We will have another public comment opportunity at the end of our meeting. Any commissioner comments? Yes, Commissioner Rush.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Paige Sykes and Drew Warner for coming tonight. That section of the county, beautiful M22, is in Leland Township, and I represent everybody. And I very much appreciate the effort that is being made on behalf of all of us to make a difference. and every visitor and every person that lives here. So publicly, thank you, and I promise that we'll work on it.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner O'Gara.
First, what you read was very informative. I'd love a copy of it. But then I'd also like to welcome our state representative, Representative Coffey. Thank you very much.
Any other commissioner comments? I would ask the administrator during your report to maybe add on a report of, in response to the speed issue, and the representatives offer to work with us with the tribe on that issue as well. So we are now down at communications, proclamations, and presentations, and we are fortunate to have our representative here tonight. Thank you, Representative Copia, State Representative. And she's going to give a 103 district and state update.
Thank you. Good evening, Leelanau County Commission, Clerk Crocker, and Administrator Allen. It is an honor to be here with you all this evening. Forgive me, I didn't want to use paper, so I just have my notes on my computer here. But it's great to be with you all. As you all know, I was elected in November, started January 11th, and I thought it was important to get some work done before I came and talked to you about the work I was doing. So we are a quarter in. We've just approved our first budget, and I thought it was an appropriate time to come and give you sort of an update. But first, I want to say thank you to each of you. I have sat not in this seat with you all, but as a Grand Traverse County Commissioner for 2 terms, and the work you do is incredibly important. And so thank you for your service. So also, as far as Ms. Sykes and Commissioner Ross, my office is in communication. My legislative director has had, I think, a good conversation with Ms. Sykes even as recently as today. And this was the issue of speed along M22 came to my attention last year, knocking doors actually over in Proshavistown with the issues they have with high speeds of folks coming through that community, and what we can do in terms of working with MDOT to try to address those issues. So we are committed to working with you all as local partners to see if we can find a resolution for the safety of our community. So I wanted to give you some updates on what we've been working on. I'm going to talk a little bit about some bills and efforts that I have made in the House in my first 6 months, as well as some budget wins and some budget keep trying, and then make sure that I end with some information about how folks can stay engaged with myself and my team. So I will just briefly touch on, I'm working with my team on many policies, but a key bill that I championed that was the very first of my bills to pass the full House actually directly impacts Leelanau County and the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. Essentially, historically, the state has had a domestic violence and treatment board that has funding that is allocated to local units of government and other entities to address the unfortunate reality of domestic and sexual violence and treatment programs and shelters, etc. But historically, our 12 federally recognized tribes were not included as legal recipients of those funds. And this was brought to my attention, especially, I had the support of the Grand Traverse Band on putting forward an initiative to rectify that and place them in state statute as recipients of that funding. This was really important to me because when I realized that in a lot of rural communities, the tribes shelters may be the only option in town, especially in more rural areas of Michigan. So, and they serve both tribal and non-tribal survivors alike. So I was very proud to work with the Grand Traverse Band as well as several other tribes and be able to get that piece of legislation through. It passed the House with overwhelming bipartisan support. It actually passed 103-3, which was kind of cool because I'm the 103rd representative. So my very first bill. So I want to thank the tribe for their support on that, and I know that this funding will be freed up to really help survivors throughout the state of Michigan. Another really big emphasis for me in my first 6 months is something I have known about for decades, frankly, and it has to do with our rural school districts. Rural school districts in Michigan have been essentially dealing with an inequity in funding for schools for decades. And how this plays out is in our more rural school districts, they have huge bus routes in many cases, huge geographic bus routes that they serve, but no additional funding from the state to pay for the huge amounts of money that goes towards gasoline, wear and tear. You can imagine how expensive that gets, and it cuts heavily into their general fund budget. So this is something I actually knew about growing up because I grew up out in Itasca County, and we actually ran out of money as a school district when I was in high school. Closed early, a couple months early, and to reopen our classroom doors, we actually cut busing. And so it was a 400 square mile district, and those families had to find a way to get the kids to school. So it's sort of a nerdy, down in the weeds problem, but it has real consequences for our rural school kids because that's money that's not going into the classroom, it's not going towards mental health, it's not going towards college prep, unlike downstate school districts that have significantly more funds because they don't spend the money on the gas tank. So I tackled this issue with local school leaders, and one of my first standalone policy bills actually addressed this head-on with the tiered per pupil per mile formula. And I'm very proud to say that that actually got into the House's proposed budget, and then I negotiated with the House and Senate Appropriations Chair, and it actually made it into the final budget, $125 million for rural transportation equity, and most importantly, a new equity formula for transportation that will actually take into consideration and send extra dollars to rural school districts. So again, sort of a nerdy thing, but it has real consequences for our school kids, and I think that every kid, no matter their zip code, we should be really investing as a state in their education. So that was a big win in my first 6 months for a problem that's been around for decades. Budget season, speaking of that, the budget has been a big focus for us since April, and we recently voted out our budget, our 2023-24 budget, in time for the July 1st deadline. It had bipartisan support and a couple of specific district wins that I want to highlight. As you all know, the state has had federal ARPA dollars, billions in federal ARPA dollars they've been sitting on for the last few years, and we were made aware by the feds that if we didn't start actually investing those dollars into our local communities, the feds would claw them back to DC. So we wanted that money to go to our communities where it can do the most good. A couple of successful proposals that I was able to get into the budget. $800,000 for child care startups and family tuition support. Child care has been a huge issue that I've been hearing about from the district, from families, from businesses. And this funding, I worked directly with your former colleague, Patricia Sudas-Little, and the Leelanau Early Childhood Commission. They applied for the funding, and we were able to get that funding, which will go towards more startups, for more child care, helping these businesses start up, and tuition assistance. Another issue that I've heard a lot about from all of the districts, from businesses and families, is housing, access to attainable housing. And so Leelanau County has a relationship with Housing North. Yes, it has a person with a technical expertise to support our local jurisdictions in addressing their housing needs. We were able to get $300,000 into the new budget, specifically to pay for more of those highly trained staff to come and work alongside local jurisdictions, particularly smaller jurisdictions that may not have the full-time staff with the technical expertise to navigate state and federal programs, law changes, and access to funding. So that was a big one. In the budget, we also added $50 million for MSHDA's attainable housing funding, and we are in the process of working with MSHDA to make some changes in the way that funding flows to rural communities. Because quite frankly, and I talked about this during the campaign, the way MSHDA's rules are for accessing these dollars right now, they sort of skew in favor of populations of 50,000 or higher. Things like walkability scores, access to things by foot. Well, we all know living in northern Michigan, that's not a reasonable metric to decide whether a community deserves those dollars. So I'm working with MSHDA now and other partners. We're hoping to actually change the criteria and also build in an equity formula such that a certain percentage of MSHDA's funding actually has to go to rural communities to help us with our housing needs so that the dollars are more equally distributed across the state. Another big initiative that got into the budget, and I really want to give a lot of credit to my Republican colleague on the Senate side, Senator John DeMoose, who's of course the senator for Leelanau County. He and I worked very closely on this particular project. For a $15 million, we successfully got in the state budget for the Freshwater Research and Innovation Center, which is down in Elmwood Township. And this is a really important partnership that has developed between Michigan Technological University, Northwestern Michigan College, 20 Fathoms, the Discovery Center here, and Charters Connect. They already had $8 million towards the total project. We were able to get another 15. And my biggest question for them when they came to me about this funding, it's a great concept, but I wanted to find out what kind of jobs this would produce. because we need well-paying year-round jobs. And the projection is that it will bring over 300 well-paying jobs in advanced technology, marine research, et cetera, and these would be in the 65 to 80,000 starting wage. So that was a big selling point for me. It makes us a hub for freshwater research and applied marine technologies. We'd be one of the few in the country. And it would also, this was important to me as an NMC alum, it would offer our local college students internship opportunities and frankly a potential on-ramp into a really important and high-paying career. So, ongoing efforts. We made some efforts that didn't quite make it across the finish line in this year's budget. I was able to get some funding into the House's version of the budget for the Juvenile Justice Facility, which I've been working with Jeff Gronkowski and Administrator Stephen Clark, as well as the Grand Traverse folks. It did not make it over the finish line into the Senate budget or the final version, but we have had some positive steps forward in the meantime. The child care fund, that was a 50-50 match between the county and the state, the Juvenile Justice Task Force had recommended that that be changed to a 75 state, 25 local, if we kept the youth in the community to get the services that they need, and they have a better chance of succeeding and sort of getting out of the justice system in that case. That change was made in this new budget. So you all will be expected to put forward 25%, and the state will do the other 75%. So it's progress on a difficult problem that continues. Mental health was another huge piece of the puzzle. When I met with Judge Gronkowski and Administrator Clark in December, they were maybe one of my first meetings after I was elected. They really pointed out that a large percentage of the youth that end up in the courts, there are some severe mental health issues involved. And they had hoped to develop a concept to get those young people with mental health support they needed in the process of building this facility. As was mentioned by Dr. Conley, Grand Traverse and I, that was one of my last votes as a Grand Traverse Commission, put forward $5 million to build a mental wellness center that will actually go for both juvenile and adult mental health inpatient beds. That is moving a step forward, and so that's another piece of the puzzle. I mentioned to Dr. Conley when she was at my coffee hour the other day, there is state funding for this sort of thing. Something called Certified Community Behavioral Health Centers, which she mentioned that is a Senator Stabenow initiative. But what we're looking at with this wellness center very much seems to match up with what those CCBHCs are meant to do. And there's consistent federal funding for that, as well as 19 CCBHCs actually applied and received funding in this new budget for the state. So if the local community decided to go for that concept, I would be more than happy to go to that for trying to bring some of those state dollars home in a future budget or supplemental. But this is a problem I'm not walking away from. We got into the House budget, it didn't make it over the Senate finish line, and we're going to keep trying. Rural broadband, I'm looking at you, Commissioner Allgaier. That was a heartbreaker. We actually had heard from the approach leadership that that $5 million that we asked for those final miles into those 4 townships here in Leelanau County was in the draft budget. And then we had a difficult situation with timing of the feds announcing $1.6 billion coming down for rural broadband starting in 2024. And what Senator DeMoose and I think is that our approach leadership looked at that and said, well, those are earmarked dollars specifically for broadband. We're going to free up that $5 million to go to more general ARPA projects. So again, very disappointing. We certainly thought it was there till the bitter end, and we are going to keep trying. I am here, my office is here, we will keep working it, and I believe no just means not now. So we're going to keep trying until we help get that funding. So, by the way, the $1.6 billion in BEAD funding is going to start next year, and I know we really hoped that money would be available much sooner. So we will continue those conversations. Finally, those are just a couple of things that I've been working on. There's lots more, but I don't want to take up your whole meeting. It's hard to pack 6 months of work into a brief report. In-district engagement. I want to make sure that you as commissioners and the community who are here tonight know that my office, I do a monthly in-person legislative coffee hour in all 3 of the counties that I represent every month. We started it in February, and we've done 18 of them so far. I get some of my best ideas right there from the people that I'm there to serve. We also do virtual town halls, but the Leelanau Legislative Coffee Hour is always here, either in this room or if you're using the space downstairs, in the meeting room downstairs. But It's the second Monday of every month at 3 p.m. and everyone is welcome. We also, I will tell you all, you're very engaged constituents. I hear from my colleagues, we may have the highest volume of emails, calls, and letters, maybe of everyone in the House, I'm not sure, but in 6 months, we've had over 9,000 of them. So yes, very engaged, and thank you all for being patient with Kate and Ashley, my staff, as they are doing their very best. And I personally look at and try to approve what we send back. So appreciate the 103rd. We will be doing legislative door knocks and calls this summer. We've already done a little over 2,000 knocks. And these are not campaigning. I'm not asking for anyone's vote. I'm simply doing a survey to again, engage with constituents and hear what's most important to you all. We're also doing calls. And finally, I do want to just thank you once again for the service that you give and the partnership of Leelanau County as I try to do the best job I can. And I appreciate the comments made earlier. Recall is a part of the process. The people of this district have every right to put that up, and we'll let the process play out. I intend to stay focused on doing the job that I was elected to do. And again, thank you for having me.
Commissioners have any questions or comments for our representative? Yes, Commissioner Allgaier.
I heard at the Northern Michigan Counties Association meeting yesterday that the BEAD applications go in January 24, and the money could come out that summer. Is she dreaming?
I think that is true. I've been in touch with Todd Cook, who is he's with Leo. He is our legislative advocate with Leo, and they are planning to start through the applications and award the money in early 2024. So my office wants to be in good touch with you all about how to help you all get involved in that process.
Thank you. And it's companies that have to, it's the providers, right? That have to
I can
apply.
give you more details on the exact, it's new funding, and so I want to work with you on the details.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner.
I'd just like to thank you for responding so quickly to our last minute thought to come and talk with you today. And you went above and beyond. Thank you so much.
Well, and thank you, Commissioner Ross, because you reaching out to me made me personally aware of it, and I was able to kind of alert my team and get in touch. So we try.
Yeah.
We do our best.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes, ma'am. Michigan Bill 4722 was passed before you got in November. What it does, it takes the ability to regulate short-term rentals away from local entities. Like in Elmwood that I used to represent, it was 3%, and I believe the bill comes up to 30%. In other words, 1 out of every 3 houses could be a short-term rental. I just want your opinion. Now, it's not your fault it's passed, okay? But I mean, you're the go-to person.
So my understanding, Commissioner O'Rourke, thank you for the question, is that bill did not make it. We have not removed local control.
Not yet, no.
No. And what I can say is my gloves are off as far as that's concerned. That would make a very challenging problem infinitely worse, and I don't know how we would ever recover as a state from taking away local jurisdictions' ability to regulate something like that. Frankly, I didn't mention aggregates, but my gloves have been off twice already on that exact issue. Since I got in, it was very awkward for me because it was bipartisan bills. The aggregate mining industry pushes them every term for the last 4, and my appropriations chair was one of the sponsors during budget season. Very awkward. But what I knew was Castle Township was ground zero for the lawsuit to protect our ability to regulate that industry. And so I see that similar to short-term rentals. We need to keep those kinds of decisions local. People closest to the challenge need to be closest to coming up with a solution for us. We did defeat aggregates twice. And that was a lot of work, and I hope it's dead forever, but these darn bills sometimes are like zombies, they keep coming back. I am watching for that one very specifically, and I'm in a lot of conversation. There's a lot of bipartisan opposition to that. So just know that I'm keeping an eye on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? I wanted to say, Representative, that you and Senator DeMoose together, working so closely together on the broadband and the child care. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's the job, right? It is very important for us to look for common ground. I have a great relationship with Senator DeMoose, and we sort of have we agree to disagree on our things, but there's so much, right? Mental health, childcare, housing, infrastructure, public safety. There are so many things that we can and do work together on. So I know he's not here tonight, but I try to say that in every space I go to. We're supposed to work together, and we are. So,
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And next on our agenda is the administrator update, and will you reference the issue with the tribe on M22 as you do your administrator update?
Absolutely. That was, when we met with the tribe, that was one of the things that they had expressed concern about was the traffic issues along there in Shabby-Town and the fact that they have many of their workers and their visitors cross the street to go to the gas station, or their guests try to get over to the gas station, and there's been multiple issues. So I will, as has been requested, work to combine a report on the issue of the M22 traffic with the tribe and the community and what Paige has provided, and see if we can't work moving that forward a little bit.
Thank you.
So in regards to the administrator's report, I did update the board on several of the items that were discussed at last week's meeting with the regular meeting, and in my report addressed some of the reports that were generated, some updates on the MERS request, the engineering agreement, letters of support for the resolutions, and one late addition that we'll be talking about today. I don't have anything specific to address on those right now, but would welcome any questions. I did want to mention that I think we all can agree we live in a beautiful area, and we've noticed that the traffic is increasing. I got a lovely letter from United Airlines who shared with me that Traverse City and Leelanau County are featured in their pocket. That was pretty much the same response. That was the same response that we all had in the office. We all went, oh. However, it really is a beautiful feature on some of the key elements of Leelanau County, such as the Sleeping Bear Dunes, the Fish Town, and even the dam was featured in this one. So as well as some of our local wineries. So
Did they talk about
unfortunately, the word is out, everyone. I think it's unanimous. That word is out. So that is really what I have to share with you. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions for the administrator? Thank you. Thank you. We are now in our agenda down to the consent agenda items. I'd like to read a statement. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one motion without discussion. Any commissioner may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected and will not need a second. So we have 7 items on the consent agenda. Does anybody want to remove any of them, or would you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as presented.
Support.
Any discussion? Oh, no discussion. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion approved, 7-0. Thank you. We are now down to action item number 8 under Human Resources. Deb, you want to speak to that?
Yes. So this issue came before the board last week in regards to a request to provide equity and efficiency in our senior services office. It has to do with updating a job description that relates to 2 different areas in that department. We're kind of unique here in Leelanau County that we don't employ a large staff. We utilize and outsource a lot of our needs for local providers of services. So the 2 individuals that we have that are working in the department, one of them has been specifically geared toward doing assessments, wellness assessments on the seniors in the county, and the other one has been focused really solely on being able to be a connector to local community services. So there's 2 different components here. And both of them, we're very fortunate, both of them have the same degree. They're both nurses, RNs. And so we're seeing an increase in the number of requests for assessments. And so the rationale for this recommendation to have both of those individuals have the same skill sets, and the same job description so that they would be cross-trained so that they can basically serve a larger number of people. And there's about a very insignificant difference in pay for the two individuals. They both started within a week of each other, but because of the job descriptions, their pay was different. So this is to create equity and in this scenario by updating the job description and also adjusting the pay salary for the one individual as recommended.
Questions for Deb or a motion? Yes, Commissioner Ross.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the job description for the Senior Services Care Coordinator position as presented, and that the current Aging Well Resource Coordinator be reassigned to Care Coordinator pending review and approval by legal counsel.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Lautner?
I just have one comment. I won't be approving this tonight. As I said Tuesday, I think that this ought to be going to the budget process.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Rexroth.
I will approve it, I'll be supporting because of the minor thing, but I agree with Commissioner Lautner. This board has to stop being a weekly and monthly system it's just not the way to run things. So because of the minute part of this, I will support this, but we have to change our operations.
Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Auger.
I would just like to briefly say that I too will support it, so these two people can be sharing the job and cross-training as of right now. I think that's important for the working of the department.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved.
Opposed. Thank you.
6-1. I thought I heard you. Next.
So the second item that is before you is in regards to a request for MERS credit. This is something that,
You have one more.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have enough.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So the second one is related to the first item that we just discussed. It was related to the job description. Now that that has changed, we're looking for the adjustment as proposed in the executive document summary to now adjust the individual's wages to bring them both to an equal level.
Commissioner Auger.
I thought we were doing that before.
Just
So
the job
Of course we should
description.
do it.
One was the job description.
Yes.
Okay.
Please, thanks.
Commissioner Kramer.
Is it?
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve that Gail Carlson be moved to the grade 3 two-year rate of the 2023 Teamsters wage scale effective immediately at a cost of $1,766 for the remainder of 2023.
Support. And thank you.
One question, this has gone to the union and they have supported it, right?
They have.
Yes.
Yep. I thought there was going to be a union representative this
Okay.
evening who would express support, but yeah, they're not here, but that's my understanding.
Commissioner Lautner?
Yeah, once again, I think this should be going through the budget process. This week was not the first time we discussed this position. It was discussed last summer. So we have the number, the 1766 for the remainder of the year. Does that include all bennies besides, or is it straight salary? MERS and, okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-1. Thank you. We're now down to the MERS service credit.
So it has been past practice that from time to time, employees would be able to approach the Board of Commissioners to request the ability to self-fund additional service credit years of service. So this is something that has been done in the past. And so it's being presented to you as it has been, in those past scenarios. We do know that there are a few things that are different in regards to our recent audit for consideration, but it is ultimately the board's decision. if you want to move forward with this request.
I heard the discussion last week, so I did get two pieces of information I wanted to share. One is that our funded ratio did go down 2 percentage points, and our unfunded liability is up to $5,128,000, which is still better than most counties, but going in the wrong direction. And I personally am going to not support this because I believe we have to be very careful about the liability of this kind of action. Yes, yes, Commissioner Lautner.
I just wanted to say, we have had a past practice, but the past practice hasn't been for just the generic service so that someone can retire early, potentially at 50 years old, because that is going to be a huge, huge detriment for the county. Because the county has 25 years service, 25 years of service, you can retire at 50. It's a big potential problem for us. And I don't know at what point this would come into play. But past service, as I remember, it has been past service credit, past military, past other governmental, and not just generic. So that was why I opposed it last week. So I'm going to not support it this week also for that reason.
Commissioner Rourke, that's incorrect. Ed Bowen was not military. He bought a lot of service time.
Coming into employment, I'm sorry.
What's that?
There was a point I wanted to make, so thank you. It was for people coming into service at the county, though.
Okay.
Thank you.
Presently, Sergeant Hall is not working, okay? I can't say anything more than that. But she is putting up to $29,000 to buy years of service. As Ms. Allen pointed out, how long you're going to live, or you're going to die, or whatever. The average age of police officers that die, I just looked it up, is 66. The average age of other people is 77. I'm probably lucky to be here at 72. I've buried lots of my friends, Ed Eckerly, Clint Kirk, officers that I had trained. And this is nothing off the county. She could get this and die tomorrow, and there is no change. When I left, I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. But yes, I bought 19 months. I had a couple issues working narcotics undercover, and I came out and I decided that I didn't want to come back to the Sheriff's Department. But I bought my 32 years. Sergeant Hall has done an outstanding job, and this is not costing the county anything unless she lives to be 70 or 80. Therefore, I make the motion. I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve a resolution for Sergeant Jennifer Hall to purchase 3 years, 6 months of generic service credit from MERS, as described in the application for additional service credit purchase at a cost of approximately $29,033 to be paid by the employee.
A second.
Further, yes, Commissioner Elgar?
I've only been sitting here for 2.5 years, but I sat out there for 10. I've never heard us turn one of these down. So I really wonder why all of a sudden we're denying this to our employees. They are investing. So I have to support this motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rushroot? Oh, well, yes, and then Melinda.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
And I don't want to make this personal or even have a name, because I'd rather not know who was applying. My concerns here are the same as last week about the burden this places on the county from a retirement thing, and I understand past practices, and we haven't done, but just because we haven't done it right, maybe we haven't looked at it in depth enough about the impact to the county in this future, and so for that reason, I am not going to support this.
Commissioner Lautner?
Yeah, thank you for that. This is also nothing personal for me. This is just different than what we've done, and I think we could be setting ourselves up for potentially a really bad precedent. I thought we only had one female officer deputy in the county. I did not know what her position was, but still in all, this is nothing personal. It's just a bad practice for us to start.
Thank you. Commissioner Kramer?
I want to, I guess, remind everyone or kind of let you all know what's going through my head while we make this choice. I think it's our job and our responsibility to balance these very human aspects with our fiscal responsibility. So I will be voting for this motion.
Commissioner O'Rourke, and then...
One other thing, Ms. Allen's last statement on the merger request. However, there is no way of actually knowing when an individual will draw their pension or how long they will live. Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Elgar?
I think that if we start turning some of these down, we'd better sit down and have criteria for what is supported and what is not. We better be extremely clear so that employees know where they stand, what will be supported and what will not. And without that, I really hesitate to, I'll be sad to see this new precedent all of a sudden.
Commissioner Kramer?
And I think we need to take that into consideration as well. In this job market, it's extremely difficult to retain and keep good talent. And so having great human resources policies and things like that, we need to consider.
We've heard from Commissioner Ross. Okay. I think it's time to vote, and let's do a roll call vote.
I have to have a roll call.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Rourke made
Yes.
that, I do believe. Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
No.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
No.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
No.
passes 4-3.
Motion approved, 4-3. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think it's a sad day.
I think that as a county, we have to run as a county and that we can't look at this too personally. We have to do what's best for the county as a whole. And
Again, there's things you can't say about Miss Hall's condition right now, but she was a sergeant. She did a great service to Leelanau County. She was a training officer. Everything from restraining, dealing with inmates, she was an outstanding employee. She is no longer working.
Thank you. And yes, she was an outstanding employee.
it was never the question.
We're down to item number 9, and the Government Center North Wall.
So this issue has been brought before the board several times. We're aware that there are some, while it's not, I would say, structural, it is construction-oriented inequities or issues or concerns that we have in some of the masonry that is creating larger scale issues. And so we have before you a recommendation to do a scope of work for this project to fix the project. I know there has been in our CIP, our capital improvement plan, it's been listed as a project in the past. We were fortunate to be able to look at other options on how to fix this. And so we have scaled back the project, which was, I think, initially estimated at maybe almost as much of $250,000. I think every indication is this is going to be much less, significantly less. But we do need to move forward with the scope of work to be able to then send out the RFPs to be able to have the actual project completed, or at least bid on and then completed.
Anybody want to make a motion? Yes, Commissioner Elgar.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive its bid policy and approve an agreement between Leelanau County and Mashin Engineering of Traverse City as presented pending council review and approval. Project will be charged to BOC Special Projects 101 100 101 967 000.
Support.
Any discussion? Commissioner Rexroth.
I will again oppose this engagement because actually, Administrator Allen, the first budget was $450,000 that we received, not $250,000. And we have not yet had a full, complete report on, that was asked for last time, and all the money spent prior to this on this item as well. I don't see any invoicing for the preparation of that item a little over a year ago that created that first budget. So based on the fact that this person that we're engaging with originally chose to pick a design that would have cost the taxpayers of this county $350,000 or $300 more than it had to, I still choose not to support this motion.
Other commissioner comments or questions? You look like you have a question, Gwen.
Well, I'm just wondering, did you suggest getting bids from other, I thought you did.
We asked for that.
I thought we talked about it
We
at the last meeting. That was one of the things we asked, was whether we would, or at least investigate whether we could or would. I think that was my recollection of the discussion.
Yep.
So.
I kind of.
So I believe, if I may, what was asked for was a complete history of what our relationship with Mission is. I did provide some of that information, I think, in my report. My understanding, if I look back through this, is that we had approved $3,100 for the first design work. This request, I believe, is significantly higher. I think it was almost $12,000 for the revised, if I have that right, and I apologize, I'm trying to look through my documents here. But as I had shared before with the board, if it is the board's decision to go out to a bid, this is different than what we've done in the past, and if that's the case, then we would be doing that and bringing back this recommendation in August.
Commissioner Rexroth.
I was going to say, just a clarification. I went through the documents. What I could see, we paid it's either $3,000 or $3,500 for just a study underneath. That's the first one I could find related to the deck, and then this additional $12 for the design. But something had been done a year or better prior to that to develop that first sketch and budget. So I could only find two things in the paperwork that related. The one was the most recent one that we did, where we took some masonry work off, and that was, we paid them, I think, $3,500 to do that investigation, then this proposal. But there must be something prior to that, because I assume he didn't, that sketch that's been in existence for like a year or so.
2017, I think we
Yeah.
went back to. See that?
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe he did it for free, I don't know. Guess not.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Is there a motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who
I
made the
a-
motion?
I did.
And it was supported.
And it was supported, but didn't you say, didn't you say one of the concerns was getting this fixed by winter?
Well, that's a reality that, if we go through part of the reason why we're using Mission, as I understand it, from my history and looking back through this, is that this continued to be an issue, that whenever there was a project or something that needed to be addressed, then we had to find an engineer, bid that out, do RFPs, and then we had to do RFPs for the work. And so what was happening historically is that projects were being delayed several months that could have been fixed or should have probably been fixed in a more timely fashion. So the decision to bid this out and go with one particular engineer is how we've got to the point of working with Mission. Now, that was back, I believe, in 2017, as I said, and every year we have just kind of extended that agreement. And it may very well be absolutely time to look at that. So just kind of, this is where we are today. So if that is truly the board's decision that you want to go back to a bid process for engineers, that will delay the process and we'll be into a winter season where they will probably not be able to do the masonry work. So the situation will be exasperated.
So we have a motion on the floor, and I think it's time to vote. So all those in support of the motion, say aye. I think the motion fails. 7-0. I was reading your faces.
That's a first, congratulations.
Are you going to call for the rest of the vote?
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails 7-0-7.
By retro.
Good job on that one.
I guess
I
we have
just-
to get
you know,
more
I think
bids.
The fact that we haven't reviewed that since 2017, probably just is time to look at it.
Yeah,
So,
no, right.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I will also mention that the number that has been out there, that $475,000, was never recommended or never mentioned in any documents from Mission. That was an estimate that was made internally from, best we can find, is from our maintenance department.
I remember seeing a document with,
We got some work to do.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Sounds like it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, we're down now to a letter of support. Deb?
So, letter of support, as Representative Kofia had mentioned earlier, about the US EDA Tech Hub Strategy Development Grant that is being applied for the Water Research Development Facility. We have the ability to support that, and there is a request for a letter of support that you've all received, and that is one of the items we have before you.
Commissioner Russell.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the request from Traverse Connect for a letter of support for its application to the US EDA Tech Hubs Grant Program.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Lutner.
Well, I guess I was looking for an answer to my questions on what this was going to be used for, the amount of money and for what, if it was just salaries, and I don't know if I just missed something or if we didn't get those answers. So it was $500,000, is this the grant to hire someone?
My understanding is it is for staff to support their initial structure of the facility, like organization of the facility.
The $500,000 for 1 year, for 2 years, for more than one person, for 8 people? What?
Best I could do is read to you the resolution that was in front of you, or the letter of support.
Well, that's what we had last week. We had that letter of support, right? And that's one that spoke to hiring a person for $500,000.
I don't believe it
I
is.
believe there's a couple of positions, and I don't know if it's, I don't feel like it's in the scope of the commissioner's responsibility to dictate how they spend it. We know that this is, that our community is supporting this, and our state is supporting this, and I think as a local entity, we should as well.
Anybody else? I'm going to support it because I saw the list of all of the organizations and groups and colleges and representatives that are supporting it, and I know it's been vetted, and I know we need it, and I know that it has tremendous potential benefit for our county. Commissioner Lautner.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just think that, these dollars, just because they're not out of our general fund, these are taxpayer dollars that are going to be going for exactly what? We don't know exactly what. Yes, we're in support of the concept, we're in support of the project, but we're signing on to something we don't even know what for. That bothers me.
Any other comments or questions? I think we're ready to vote. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you. We are now down to late edition request number 1, resolution.
And I believe we have a representative here from Networks Northwest regarding this proposal.
Welcome.
Rob Carlson has been with us before on several different projects, so this is specifically a resolution to establish an intermunicipality committee under the Michigan Public Act 200 of 1957 for the purpose of transportation planning in the Traverse study area. The board has been, a resolution was brought to the board previously to agree to move forward with the concept, and now this is a little bit more of a more formal request to actually be part of the the planning group, but I'm going to let you, Rob, speak to that, if you would briefly, in terms of what this specifically addresses.
Yes, thank you for having me this evening. I'm happy to be here. So as Deb said, the initial resolution that was passed by the county board was basically to have a seat at the table for the discussions. There was a special meeting held on June 16th. And at that meeting, the Traverse Transportation Coordinating Initiative entities that were participating. Is that me?
Yes, just let's do that to Jen the other day.
That's not you. That's not.
Sounds like, yeah.
That's a robot.
As you double click the bookmark, so can you click outside the bookmark?
You turn the
Technology is really nice when it works.
Yes, it's great until it doesn't.
Thank you. If only I would type when you were
Yeah,
speaking.
no problem.
Yeah.
Me. I've had my errors with technology. So we have a special meeting on June 16th of all the participating entities. There was a draft intergovernmental agreement and language presented prior to that meeting. There was discussion about the entities, each of the entities' involvement with TTCI, and a motion was made by the member entities that were at that meeting to move forward with the language in the intergovernmental agreement and the draft bylaws. That is now what is before you for consideration. What that intergovernmental agreement basically states is that Leelanau County, through representation assigned by the County Board of Commissioners, would like to be a participating entity on the Traverse Transportation Coordinating Initiative Metropolitan Planning Organization. That is a mouthful. That is the name that is being utilized and was selected by the TTCI entities and has been transferred to the Michigan Department of Transportation. What that basically means is that any eligible entity that is participating, they will have a seat as a member on the policy board, and they will also have an assigned seat for members on the technical committee, as well as other ad hoc committees that can be added at different times to weigh different types of transportation issues, priorities, and projects. Basically what this is a collaborative entity of all the local units of government and transportation agencies around the greater Traverse City area. The urbanized area extends into Leelanau County, as you've seen with the latest 2020 census release. Elmwood Township and Bingham Township both have a couple of census blocks that are considered urbanized. We expect that in the next decennial census in 2030, that Sutton's Bay, the village, and likely the township will have urbanized area also within their civil division boundaries. There's also other divisions in Grand Traverse County and likely in Benson County that will receive urbanized designation within the next 10 years. How this entity works is Networks Northwest serves as formal staff to the Traverse Transportation Coordinating Initiative. We work directly for the MPO Policy Board. They are a separate entity from the Networks Northwest Board. The staff for the MPO will serve that MPO Policy Board directly. The state of Michigan, through the Michigan Department of Transportation, sees that federal guidelines for planning, for transportation planning specifically, are met through MPOs. MPOs are an avenue to get additional transportation funding. There is a allocation specifically that increases our transportation funding each year and also opens up a book of grants that are available for the MPO to apply for larger projects. And when I speak to large grants, this is how we get $100 million projects completed in the Traverse area. And this is the only route to get those types of projects completed. From a staff standpoint, it is very important, in my opinion, to have full collaboration of all the entities that are in the area. The more that we are working together, the stronger we will be. The better plans that we'll have laid out and the better projects that we'll see completed through this initiative.
So there are three different components. There is the resolution, And also, you received copies of the bylaws, the proposed bylaws, and also the intergovernmental agreement. One of our commissioners had pointed out that there may have been a section that was missing in the information that we received. Commissioner Lautner, can you
Well,
speak
yeah,
to that?
if I may. So what we received today as a late edition number 1, it speaks to the agreement.
Yes.
Where's the agreement?
That is the intergovernmental, well, you received.
Bylaws?
You're looking at, no, so you were looking at the resolution that is referencing the agreement and the bylaws. The agreement is the multi-page document, I want to say it's 12 to 15 pages, that has the conditions for the formation of a, so yes, so this right here,
So the very
this is the actual agreement.
first, that is the agreement.
Yep.
Okay, the agreement speaks to Article 11 and Article 12. So, there it is. Okay, so the question is, no, that one is a quorum. That is a quorum. It speaks to new members being added to the board according to procedures in the agreement. So you can bring in other entities at any time?
Entities that are eligible, so speak specifically to eligible entities, which is the statutory language that is in the Federal Highway Administration guidelines. An eligible entity is any entity that currently has urbanized area designation within the civil division boundaries or is anticipated to achieve urbanized area designation by the next census.
And will they have to pay the same amount to get in then, if they qualify at that time?
Yes, that is the most difficult part of this whole arrangement moving forward is the intergovernmental agreement speaks to equal voting rights for each entity and member. So each participating entity gets one vote on the policy board, regardless of local unit of government status, transportation agency status, or transit agency status. Also with that, the dues that support the planning grant that comes down through the Federal Highway Administration, it's approximately $51,000. That is divided equally amongst all of the entities that choose to participate. So if every entity that is eligible to participate within the MPO formation participates, member dues would be about $3,500. If one entity chooses and no one else, which is likely not to happen, they would carry the full brunt of the match commitment for the planning grant.
Commissioner Russ.
Yeah, can you explain to me on the list in, well, whatever, it's got like, all the entities, right? Tell me why we should, as a commission, join when Elmwood Township and Bingham Township would be at the table already. What advantage do you see in us additionally being?
And our road commission.
And the road commission, yeah. So why all those
Well,
are necessary?
there's a couple of reasons. One is to have more votes for your citizens within Leelanau County.
Sure.
It's likely that your ideas for transportation improvements are likely going to align with the county road commission and likely with your local units. So it provides you another voting right for transportation projects to get prioritized within Leelanau County. Outside of that, the next decennial census, when that is released, we anticipate that there's going to be further entities in Leelanau County that are going to be eligible to participate, but they are not participating currently. So that will give you as commissioners and whoever has oversight over Sutton's Bay Township, Sutton's Bay Village as they are your electors, you would be part of that decision-making process before they're actually brought on board.
Commissioner Rexroth.
Just to follow up on your question there, if I look through that list, I read 10 or 11 entities associated with Grand Traverse County, and we could go from 2 to 3. or 3 to 4, I question how much benefit that really brings Leelanau County as opposed to Grand Traverse County when there's a pretty good potential of, I mean, it would be dues we would pay for sure, but whether that extra seat brings us anything, looking at the numbers, I don't see it. Yeah.
Want to respond to that?
That's just a hard question to respond to. In particular, as a staff members, I won't be a part. I'll be sitting to the side when the conversations are ongoing for the prioritizations of projects and basically outlining what the desire of the NPO policy board is.
So,
Commissioner Kramer.
I'd like to say, I think it's kind of overdue. I mean, I know that we now have an opportunity for this grant funding and everything else, but the fact that these entities have been siloed for so long and we don't have that cross collaboration, I feel like is necessary for everyone. And I think having a seat at that table and making sure that we can be a part of this process is important.
Thank you. Commissioner Ross?
So if we chose not to do it at this point, and next year we could join and
Yes.
become a full voting
Yes.
member?
Yes, technically
Okay.
you can join at any time. I would ask for, 6 months at least to get caught up because what happens is when this goes to the governor's desk and is actually executed in the MPO's form, it triggers the development of the transportation improvement program and then the initiation of the process to develop the long-range transportation plan. So the long-range transportation plan looks out 20 years. So that's really one of the pieces why it's so important to have so many entities involved, is you're looking out, if you want to see, I heard speed limit discussion already tonight. If you're looking out for potential prioritized projects in Leelanau County that may not occur within 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, those are going to end up in that long-range transportation plan because it looks out 20 years. From there, those projects are prioritized down by the MPO Policy Board to what is called the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. That is a 4 to 5 year plan. So the projects that come out of the long-range transportation plan get prioritized in that 4 to 5 year TIP. And then every year, there is a unified work program that is developed. And that is actually what is going to be implemented within that respective fiscal year.
Commissioner Rourke.
Well, thanks for coming. The airport is the airport on this?
The airport is a technical advisor. They're not allowed to have a seat on the MPO Policy Board because the improvements that it's sticky because the Federal Aviation Administration provides federal dollars to the airport. Those federal dollars you can never match federal dollars to federal dollars. You probably experienced that with your ARPA funds. So we can't have the airport authority on there because we'd be matching federal planning dollars to federal aviation planning and maintenance construction dollars. But they are on the technical advisory committee. The Northwestern Michigan College is on the technical advisory committee. Representatives from TCAPS are on there. Traverse Connect has representation on there. The tribe has representation on there. We're reaching out to all entities that aren't able to be on the policy board to at least be on the advisory committee to provide their input.
Beta?
Beta is a member of the NPO policy board.
No, that was my understanding from being on the airport commission, and I think it's a good thing if you get everybody together. TC Tallis, when I was on Elmwood Township, never got back to us, never got together. In fact, we dropped them 1 year or 2 years. So if we can all get together and work on this, I think it's a good idea.
Commissioner O'Gara and then Commissioner Lautner.
While it's tempting to say we'll save some money if we wait a year or two, I think it's real important to have a seat at the table when plans are being made, instead of coming late and saying, well, wait, what about us? So I'm glad this is happening. It's needed. It's important. I live in a little tiny town on the other side of the peninsula. It's never going to happen over there. But I'm glad it's happening on the east side.
Right.
Drive into it every day.
I sure do.
I live in a little rural, 230 people in our township in Marilla in northeastern Manistee County. And I can already tell you, the roundabouts that were put in on 37 are incredible. After waiting in traffic for years and years, it expedites my commute out of Traverse City by 10 minutes.
Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, thank you. I'm not going to support this because at this time, I don't know who we would send. I know our administrator has some interest, but I would rather have our administrator working here in the county building and on some other things we've already got our county administrator busy on. In the past, I would have said probably our planning director, but our planning director is also very busy. So I think this is something best left to our road commission and the two entities in Leelanau County that are within this planning area, which is Bingham and Elmwood. Commissioner O'Rourke beat me to, one of my questions is what is the difference with a couple past practices we've already had? This is not our first rodeo on transportation, and we have never gotten anything out of these things. There was TC Talus, complete bust. We had the Grand Vision, complete bust, except for Buckley, who ended up getting all the dollars because nothing could get settled. So then there was one more, and I can't think of the name of it, but I think Kingsley got those dollars, so they're very grateful too. So this is, you say 10 years. I just don't know if this is just one more make work project, but for us to spend $3,000 to $6,000 a year for that many years, when we can have the road commission, and that is their charge. I would rather see them doing this sort of thing. And you have a list of entities. Have they all got on board so far in your list, in your bylaws?
Beta has passed their resolution, East Bay Charter Township has passed theirs, Garfield Charter Township has passed theirs, Blair Township has passed theirs, Leelanau County Road Commission has adopted their resolution, Green Lake Township has approved theirs, Acme Township has theirs tabled until August 1st. All indications are that Peninsula Township is going to approve it. We are still waiting on word from Long Lake Township, Traverse City, the Grand Traverse County Road Commission, and the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. The only township that did not display interest was Whitewater Township on 72 as you go to Kalkaska. That community has now since reached out to me and would like a presentation. So where they stand, I'm not sure. Those other communities just haven't waived the resolution that haven't adopted.
So you're asking us to support this resolution that stands on bylaws that says the voting members shall consist of one member from each of the following, and yet we don't know yet if they are. Correct?
That is technically correct, but you're never going to know depending on what the order is of operations for the adoption.
So your voting members may consist, and I'm correct, your voting members may consist of one member of each of the following.
Well, the intergovernmental agreement is what's binding, and that speaks to one member. The bylaws are strictly operation procedure for how the policy board will operate and no more.
Anybody that hasn't spoken want to speak?
I like that.
I think we're ready to vote.
Do we have a?
Do we not have a motion? I think we're ready to see if anybody wants to make a motion. Commissioner Ross.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners adopt resolution number 2023-XXX, whatever that means. Resolution to establish an intermunicipality committee under Michigan Public Act 200 of 1957 for purposes of transportation planning in the Traverse Study area as presented.
Second.
Any last comments before we vote? Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Withdrawal, just to, so did we, I don't know if we went over that, but like if any time we decide as Leelanau County, we no longer want to be a part of this or are feeling uncomfortable with our position, what happens? How does that work?
You just make petition to withdraw and withdraw. There's no vote necessary. There's nothing tying you to full participation beyond the year that your dues are paid.
But you don't get a refund.
Are we ready to vote?
Yeah, but you don't eat half a burger and get a refund either.
It really doesn't.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Oh, it's a resolution. We have to do a roll call. Thank you.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes?
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Algar,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
No.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
No.
5-2.
Resolution approved. 5-2.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Will we come back in August with a representative for this board?
Yes, we may.
Thank you.
Will we put that on the agenda for August? We now are at item 9C.
Thank you.
Commissioner Algar?
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners create an exploratory work group to create a renewable energy task force and develop the scope and action plan to be presented in August at no cost to the county.
Support.
That is different than the motion that I see in the yellow sheet. Was that intentional?
Well, I am using the motion from our minutes, which we approved.
Okay.
Actually, what we were handed is different than the minutes.
Yeah, it was
And
my-
I recall saying it this way.
It was my understanding that we were coming to, we would approve the task force at the August meeting, that we were
Yes.
approving the study group to propose the scope of the task force for our,
Yes, and
For this
that's what
meeting.
this says. I wasn't comfortable seeing a change in my wording. I felt that we should vote on what my motion was. And they say the same thing.
I think they say quite different things. So we ought to have some, we ought to have
A
some.
renewable energy task force and develop the scope and action plan.
Who seconded it?
We have it moved in a second. It was my understanding, and then I'll let the group talk. It was my understanding that we clearly said at the last meeting that we would create a study group that we would then come back to this board with in August to approve. The motion as read says something quite different than that. The motion as read says we will establish the task force. I don't know how you establish the task force before you know the scope and timelines.
I was making the motion that I made last week.
Would you be
And I was
willing?
very uncomfortable with having somebody change the wording on it from what was approved. So what I said was, last week, create an exploratory work group to create a renewable energy task force and develop the scope and action plan to be presented in August. I'm very uncomfortable with somebody changing my wording, especially since it is what was approved.
Okay.
And I think they say the same thing.
So there's a motion on the floor. We can have discussion of that, and we can see if we want any amendments to clarify it.
And if somebody wanted to change my wording, I think it would have been very appropriate to discuss that with me before this, frankly.
Yes, Commissioner Lautner.
As sometimes these issues are bounced around on this board for sometimes hours before we get to the consensus of what the board is pushing forward. Quite often, we do expect our motions to be cleaned up and presented Tuesday per what has come out of the discussion. So it happens a lot. We're thankful for it because it's we have much more clarity that way. Sometimes a little something's left out and it needs to be clarified. So that's a practice. That is a past practice. And the motion as presented is the intent of last Tuesday.
Yes, Doug.
Yeah, I would concur with Commissioner Lautner. I don't know about the wording issues, but that was what I thought we were trying to get to, that we would have a definition of what we were voting for. And that's what I understood a lot of the conversation was, at our executive board meeting was, hey, that's a little uncomfortable, not uncomfortable with the idea in general, but without having a little more specifics, we were not going to move forward, and I thought that's what was going on. So maybe I misunderstood, but I think that is what several others heard, but that's.
And when I met with the clerk today, and we went over this in a draft, I mentioned to the clerk, this is my understanding of what we decided. And it's also consistent, Commissioner Algar, with what I think you and I talked about yesterday. So I think it doesn't change what we talked about. It may change what was in your motion last week. I don't know that. But this is what we talked about yesterday.
It
That you
would have been very nice had you talked with me about changing my wording. I believe they say
Okay.
the same thing.
Commissioner Kramer.
I feel the same. I feel like they do say the same thing. There's slightly different wording. I think we get the concept. We understand what the deliverables will be, and we can meet next time and see this beautiful proposal that you lay out before us, and we're all going to be super excited.
Any other comments? All those in support of the motion that's on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-2. Thank you.
Just time out for a second. Who are my no votes?
Aye.
Okay. And I just want to read this back because I'm really getting mixed signals here. The motion that Commissioner Alguier made was, she moved that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners create an exploratory work group to create a renewable energy task force and develop the scope and action plan to be presented in August at no cost to the county.
Right.
Okay.
That's not what I wanted, but it still gives us the opportunity in August to
The words in
to modify it.
on the yellow sheet were
Yep.
just not
Yep.
read, so
Right.
it goes back to what she did at executive.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm now looking for a motion.
I would move we go
Yes.
into closed session to this. Is that what you're looking for,
Yes.
closed session? I would move that we move into closed session.
Support.
And I think we need to refer to per
MCL 15.268H.
Support.
all those in support of the motion. We got a roll call. Yes. Roll call, please.
Yep.
I didn't hear a thing.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
7-0.
Motion approved. We will probably be in closed session 15 or 20 minutes. You're welcome to stay. We thank you for coming.
Open session.
Support.
Roll call, I believe, has to be.
No, not for this
All
one.
those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 7-0. We are now at our review of financials. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Sean.
These are yours. Late edition, it's very brief, just one page, office supplies and paint.
Jail sheriff, Dale, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Noise deadening paint.
That was one preceding.
Interesting. Does it work?
Yep.
It must.
You have to speak on it.
Yep. This is the latest.
Holy cow.
Oh, no.
Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, so we've noticed during arraignments and hearings, when the defendant is sitting in the room of the jail and it's a Zoom arraignment or Zoom hearing, that as they're listening to their attorney and the judge speak, it echoes in that room, and they have to mute the defendant mic. And so they're going to try this. Try to absorb that sound so that the defendant's mute or mic doesn't have to be muted.
We'll have to find out if that works.
Any other questions for Kathy or Sean? Yes, Commissioner Lautner.
I thought that was very interesting that we had the purchase of another trailer for the jail, but I did get the explanation. Apparently a deer hit our brand new trailer we just purchased last year. And, but MMRMA covered the entire cost of the trailer. So we have a new trailer, it's getting detailed at Troz's, and we're all set, but must have been a heck of a deer to take out that brand new trailer.
I saw it, yeah, it was bad.
Wow.
Other questions for Kathy or Sean?
So we have to move, after you came out of closed session, to come into open session.
We did.
Yep, we have a motion that Matt sent that you're to make. That you're agreeing to this.
Because you guys have to get it together and get back with us, but the
But
motion.
you all left and hung up.
I think we need to take just a couple minute break because not quite sure what we're doing.
Okay.
Will you come with us?
Well, I'll use this phone.
What? Oh,
I'm sorry. Are we all going back?
Ah.
You're off.
what's going on? Are we going back there?
We have one?
Do you know what's going on?
And
Are we supposed to go back there?
No.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, that's all I need to know.
no,
Kathy?
it's just better because
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Madam Clerk, do you want to chime in?
yes, please, for a second, we're on recess. I didn't mean no, like you can't, I just can't have all you in, I got too many.
Last week I mentioned. like,
Then we've got
paper clips
2
and,
minutes
I mean, I
and-
didn't mean to sound glib, but when I was going through the.
We voted you out when you were gone.
Okay, we are still on a review of financials. Are there any final questions for Kathy or Sean? Thanks. Well, before we move to committee reports, there was a question that came out of the closed session, and we've agreed that we will deal with it next month.
Okay. Oh, that's what you were
So,
doing.
So we now are at committee reports, recommendations.
I have received a copy of the Northwest Regional Airport Authority, the financial statements. The finance committee at the airport is Will Bonnick, who is the chairman. He does a fantastic job. And Dan Jankoff and myself, and we went over this 44-page document and we approved the audit, and that was one meeting ago, and I have a copy of it if anybody really wants to sit down and go through it.
Thank you. Yes, Gwen?
I went to the Northern Michigan Counties Association meeting yesterday, which was very, very helpful. We had a contracted employee with MAC, with MAC, who is coordinating, helping, assisting with funds for, from the various opioid settlements. Apparently, there are like 6. So there was a lot of information. So we do have a contact person, and Deb, there is a call once a month for people to just ask questions and share ideas. So a Zoom, kind of a Zoom meeting. We made a motion as a group to retain local control of our mining, and we made a motion that the proposed septic ordinance as written is unacceptable while we do need a sanitary code in the state. It's just that their 5-year plan, the environmental health boards just don't have the people to do septic inspections on every septic in the state every 5 years, but that was discussed as well. So it was a very informative meeting and well worth attending.
Thank you. Anything else under committees, resolutions, reports? Special reports by staff, commissioners, and affiliated agencies?
Oh, I'm
Sometimes
sorry.
I think those ought to be combined. But,
Yeah, I just did
yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
It's late.
Yeah, no, this refers to our decision to wait. Can we not talk about that right now? No. Yes? I'm getting you. No.
There is no action on the table from our closed session. That was a question. Do we have action?
Please unmute when you are on record.
All right. I'll ask on our side afterward.
I have one affiliated agency, the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, has their monthly meeting in August, in Leelanau County downstairs, third Thursday in August, and it's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You would all be welcome, and I hope that we send that message out to residents who have been working on concerns. Thank you. We now are at our last public comment. This one is limited to 5 minutes. Mr. Makowski?
Steve Mikowski, good evening again. We find in observing these meetings that the most amount of time that the commission spends in the meeting is on non-mandated, non-essential things. That has to change. Comment was made by the Grand Vision. The Grand Vision became Grand Division. There's an extra $2 million, nothing. And the M22 speed things seem to be an interesting need. I'm just curious whether this is the proper body for taking action. It's under the state highway department control, and it seems like all the activity will be taken place at the state highway department. If the commission is asked to act on these things all the time, I don't understand how they can make an impact, except that politicians really talk about it. Epilex Northwest, this county was helped created. It's a shadow government. It did not exist 40 years ago. Congress decided to create it with money. And also let go of some of our responsibilities. So that the network Northwest is big and not supposed to exist. I can't think about it. It didn't exist 40 years ago. And again, I agree. The highway things regarding this committee or the inter-municipality committee, it would seem to me that we have the proper skills and training engineers at the county road commission, which is supposed to be elected to represent us, and the professionals there to act on our behalf. This commission has to get involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah. So we serve Elmwood Township, and I'd just like to continue with this cast vote record issue here. And this one again is coin toss, 4,000 times. The biggest variation is right at the beginning. You can see it varies quite a bit, but as the coin is tossed more and more, or the votes come in more and more, the variation becomes very small. It should resemble a straight line. So, and here's a couple things to consider too. Unnatural voting patterns in the county's cast vote records that coincided with original discovered internal database manipulation. This is what Jeffrey O'Donnell's executive summary says. He says, it is my expert opinion that the United States of America was a victim of a coordinated, multi-state conspiracy to defraud the 2020 election. It's a randomness assumption, as mail-in ballots are randomly requested and sent out, and not be sorted by the county, then naturally shall be mixed. So that's with the coins. And going on to this one in the back here, this is a fair one. This is not showing any fraud in this one. And those coins, or the cones that are in red there, he did like 100,000 attempts of 500,000 ballots being cast in an election. Determining those, he added 10% to make sure that these were wide. That should work for all of these elections. And says, okay, so then this one shows where it's not natural. This one is showing the mesa pattern, where the blue is where it starts very erratic, but it should be sent into a straight line. The black line is 50% mark, and up here there's a 62% where it ended. But it's way outside of those parameters. These are numbers given from the voting from, like I got a cast vote record here from Michelle. And Michigan hasn't been shown yet, so when that's shown, we'll see what it is. This is the backside. This is the first 25,000 or so votes in Mesa County, Colorado. And you see Trump just barely won that part, 50 over 48%. But the rest of it, the rest 2/3 or so, he had 65.5%. The 31% varies drastically, and the end result then is 60%.8. The 36%, it should be, it appears from this, is 65. Actually, they averaged 67 for some 14 years, and then all of a sudden they're down to 60.89. You know, so that's what the cast vote records show. And where am I on time? Okay, so this one shows the back, what's he call it here? The back half rise. So it's way down. The cone, it should be, the cone is right here. So it starts way low, and about that's the 50% mark there, this black line. And this is the halfway midpoint, that side to this side. It's 53%. He says, and this is 62% the ending. You divide those, you get 1.17. And they tested 19 counties with this. And here's the 19 counties tested, all different colors, from 9 different states. This isn't just a small problem. This is all over the country. Major differences. That swing in the bar chart here is 10% swing in the election. 10% difference. That's what's going on. And
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any commissioner comment? Yes, Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, there was a public comment speaking about Networks Northwest that reminded me, and I thought of this the other day again. I think we asked for the number of miles Network Northwest employees are claiming for personal use of the company cars, taxpayer-owned vehicles that they drive, and I don't think we've received that yet.
I do remember we asked Matt for that, I think.
Yes, and I think you were going to follow up, Deborah, on that.
All right, so I just heard Networks Northwest.
Okay, the Networks Northwest employees drive taxpayer-owned vehicles, and they're allowed to use them for personal use, but they have to claim their personal use, as that's taxable. So I asked for a report of how many personal miles those employees claimed last year on the taxpayer-owned vehicles.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that,
Okay.
so my apologies.
I think it was before you. I think it was
Really?
when Chet was still here
I
and.
don't ever remember.
I don't remember hearing that. Was it during
Yeah,
the
I don't-
interview process?
I don't
Was it
remember.
really?
Okay, thank you, because
Yeah,
I thought
well,
I was
did-
losing
yeah.
my mind.
Thank you.
Yes.
So is that something still that I'm,
Matt may just need to be reminded of that he was going to get us that.
You said two things. Do you have another, Commissioner Lutner? Commissioner O'Rourke?
I just wanted to bring up the speed thing on the blind corners on M22. Being a police officer for 25 years going through those corners, I understand. And what state police does, I believe it's requested through the township, a traffic study. They are the people that request the traffic study. They come in and they run radar, they get 80%. Okay, that in Cedar, we wanted it dropped to 35, so they brought it in there, and they ran the speed, they moved it to 45. Okay, so be careful what you're asking for. I think most of the people going through those curves, enjoying lovely Leelanau County, you're always going to have the idiots on the road, you're always going to have the people running through the corners. And the only way you're going to stop that is with a patrol car. Okay. And I want to thank everybody for working together tonight. I think we have a great group, I really do. You know, I mean, even Doug and I, we disagree, but we can still be friends, okay? So.
Commissioner.
That's still up for debate.
Did you have your hand up, Commissioner O'Gara?
I was just going to say, I hate to have the employees that we help pay spend hours and hours and hours and hours calculating how many personal hours they drove their cars or took. I'm sorry. We're paying for them to produce that report, and that costs money too.
Commissioner Lutner?
Anyway, but you have a right to know that, so I'm sorry.
It is by law, they have to claim those miles. So that already should be done. There should be no, it should be a simple number to pull.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Any other commissioner comment? I have one. We did have quite a bit of discussion and some disappointment tonight by some about the buyout of MERS credit. And I do believe we need to put that on our agenda and get a thorough understanding of the potential liability. I mean, I don't think, we're not talking about 5,000 or 10,000. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars out of liability. And so we do need to understand that. And I would ask that that be on the agenda for August. And maybe we could develop then a policy on that.
I think we need a policy.
Thank you. We are now at approval of financials.
So Sean, I see you've handed me a couple of amendments and transfers. So, and I saw in claims and accounts that we had kind of a big bill for the sailor and the soldier and sailor.
And we discontinued putting money into that years ago.
Yeah.
We had a nice fund balance going, and I think that they have the opportunity within veterans now, and they're getting their word out, that there's more people
Good.
coming to them. And so last year, Jared and I just threw in $2,000, because we were like, hey, maybe somebody will use it, and now we're gonna put another 2.
Wow, okay.
That's really great.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, I'm sad, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that go through, so. Okay, what else have you got?
I think the other amendment, on the second one on that amendment page, the first one is related to the purposes to report the county's portion of Lake Bluff's drain project cost of $353,000. That was previously approved. There's a net reimbursement owed the county, the general fund, $63,002. And so the net is shown in that first budget amendment. The third on the page is setting up, basically the note was issued last week, and we expect to see funding. So the net impact of that, we're kind of cleaning up the recognition of revenues and expenses related to that, which sitting now on newly created spring district fund.
So the number that's represented there under the taxes, that's those property owners that prepaid as well as your board motion for the board to go ahead and prepay as well.
So are we going to be reimbursed when taxes come in for part of that?
No, you're going to be reimbursed now, 63 that's in the first box.
Okay.
Keep your fingers.
New to all three of us. That's the plan. That's the plan. This is, the last drain was prior to 1999 or so, folks, so.
Weren't
we have
there.
records that are pretty old, and so Sean's done a great job reaching out to get resources to make sure that we're on track. And then we'll also follow up with the audit firm as well, just to make sure, since there is more than one, that he's got a long-standing relationship on how these get created.
Yeah. Mushrooming.
Commissioner Lautner?
Oh, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Do you have any questions on the fund transfer?
No, I do not. I don't know if anybody else does, but, well, what is the dispatch?
The second batch is funds transfer. I think that comes from us taking a look over the immediate future at the fund balances. And so, soldiers and sailors we talked about, the 911 dispatch, I believe, is
Quarterly.
Oh, it's quarterly,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's at 75%, which we would draw down again from the general fund in October-ish.
Perfect. I would move to approve amendment number 23-011.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
I move to approve fund transfer number 23-004.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
I would move to approve claims and accounts $147,113.72.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
And I would move to approve post audit $1,571,264.89.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye. Move to
Wait,
adjourn.
I moved.
Wait for it. Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn approved. We're adjourned.
If you all could mark your calendar.